Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my trusty sidekick, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
Phil, great to be with you.
Eric, it's another great day here in Broncos country as we record another great episode of the Neutral Zone.
We're excited. Lots to talk about.
There is. You would think, hey, it's the middle of May. There's not that much going on. How do these guys do it? There's always something.
We find a way.
There's always something. Of course, OTA started this week, Eric.
That's right.
3 days of offense versus defense for the very first time for the Broncos. Got to see Russell Wilson throwing it around out there against guys like Pat Surtain.
Looks pretty good, I thought.
You thought so?
I did.
Did anything feel a little different this year? Just say it's been a long time since the Broncos have had a guy like Russ who sort of commands some respect out there for the offense. Did anything feel different to you?
I think the red zone looks different. I think the Broncos are going to be a lot more dynamic down there offensively, and Russ just gives you a chance in every situation. We talked to Pat Surtain on Thursday, and he said there's times, there was a throw. He was guarding Cortland Sutton. He had perfect coverage, and Russ still found a way to drop the ball right in there. I think he just brings a different dynamic as a quarterback. I think you're going to see it this fall, but it's on display here already in OTAs.
And one of Russ's best traits is how he runs around in the backfield a little bit and then avoids the sack. He's not doing too much of that out there right now.
No, a little bit
but a little bit.
On Monday, he kind of moved around a little bit, escaped the pocket. It's good to see he still has that element of his game because I think there was a notion that maybe he doesn't run around as much as he used to. Can still do it when he needs to. And like you said, he raises the standard across the board. I think there's a sense of urgency. I think guys realize how important these days are. Almost everybody is here, even though it's voluntary. And I think that's critical to getting a fast start to the season.
Most definitely. So talking about Russ, in this episode of the NZ, we're going to talk about what it would take for Russ to be in the MVP conversation. What do you think about
this year?
This year.
Let's do it.
He's never won an MVP, Eric.
I don't think he's ever received an MVP vote.
But some might say that he's never had this many offensive weapons around.
Agreed. I agree with that.
You would be in that category.
Yeah.
I think I would be too. Never had quite this much talent, so maybe this is the year, Eric. What would it take for him to be in the MVP conversation? Right now, a lot of people making their preseason award lists, that kind of thing. Let's see if Russ can get on one of these MVP lists, huh?
I think so.
Then keeping it with Russ a little bit here, he says that returning to Seattle week 1, you got to keep it non-emotional. To me, I find athletes go one of two ways. They either get really pumped up and they use that as an edge. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Say a guy like Michael Jordan, he would take something like that and have it fuel him. Other athletes, they just try to say, I ignore this. This is just another game. Russ says you got to keep it non-emotional.
We'll see if he can do it.
You think he can do it?
I think there's a good chance.
I think that it's probably hard when that bus rolls in and instead of going to your regular home locker and you turn right instead of turning left, or what?
I've been to that stadium. It's confusing to figure out how to get in there.
You think you might get confused?
I'm confused.
You think you might get confused?
Yeah.
They got a nice little coffee situation up in the press box.
That's true. A little Starbucks stand.
Not a sponsor, but
really could be, probably.
Could be. Yeah, really could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice stadium, though.
Oh, it's lovely. It gets quite loud.
I love that stadium.
I think part of how Russ reacts, and maybe we'll get into this later, but is how does the crowd react first? I think that's a big part of it.
Who's going to raise the 12 flag?
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe Drew Lock.
And then have him just sort of zip line down. Zzz, right out.
That's if he is a starter, right?
That's true. He might not even be the starter. Well,
the Seahawks Twitter is pumping him up.
Either way, I suppose he could do it. He could do it and slide down and be the play, or just slide right onto his spot on the bench.
Oh my gosh!
What do you think?
It's possible.
Yeah. We'll also have a voicemail to play
That's right.
And it'll be a nice little show. Eric, I did want to get into some YouTube comments.
Let's do it.
We love the comments here because one way you can engage with the Neutral Zone is by logging on to the Broncos official YouTube page. You could watch us. You see the hair. You can see the QZs. Typically. Summertime is a little
warm.
different. Summertime is a little different.
The sleeves rolled up.
But if you leave a comment there, we read all of them.
That's true.
Some of them really nice. Some of them a little weird. Some of them just mean.
I like that. I like the mean ones.
Put the lime in the coconut.
Okay.
Nice account name here. I enjoy watching these guys together. It's awkwardly entertaining, like watching Napoleon Dynamite or Nacho Libre for the first time.
Thank you. I think
that's a nice comment, Eric. I don't know.
It is a nice comment.
Let's see. Garrett Robertson. Thanks for filling the off season, fellas. Nice.
Garrett, you're welcome.
Appreciate that. Let me scroll here. Bronco Batman. Awesome show, guys. Glad you all brought that up. What's up with the Pat Surtain jerseys? The sizes have been limited for like months now.
Oh.
Is his jersey just not being made anymore? Or is it on back order? Come on, guys. I need answers.
Well, I saw our friend Mike Kliss.
Yeah.
He said that the Pat Surtain jersey is currently the second best-selling Bronco jersey, only behind a Phil Milani jersey.
Yeah, the Milani jerseys.
They're flying off
the shelves.
They only come
went down and talked to
in
this.
quad X's.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to.
Quad, huh?
Yeah.
That's like almost like a blanket at that point. Quad X.
Yeah.
I'm not quite that tall.
Well, with shoulder pads.
That's true. Oh, you think that fans like to put on some shoulder pads when they watch?
You got to, yeah.
Really get into the moment, huh?
Gear up.
You got to gear up. I don't know what's going on with the Surtain.
Yeah,
they got to start making more of those.
We'll
go down to who do you think makes those? It's not.
I think at the team store.
The team store. There's just a person back there.
They're just
sewing.
Right.
That's a hard job. Jesse Cafaro. Love the intro because it's honest.
It is honest. I like
Don't
that.
Stop. It is honest. Deathstroke Isaiah. Heard you guys talk about double speed, and I tried it out. It actually does work really well.
Good to know.
Okay. Just a couple more here. Okay,
yeah.
Eric, because we do love the comments.
We do.
Read all of them here. Bobby Hill III.
Okay.
When I see Eric at the press conferences asking questions to the rookies, it reminds me of when SpongeBob saw himself in the commercial. I'm just curious if you could just explain what that means to me, because I'm a little confused, but
I don't really know. I can't tell if it's a compliment, like, oh, I saw Eric asking questions, that's cool. Or if it's like, Eric's a huge dork. I can't tell which one it is.
I don't know.
It could be either one. Who left that comment?
I think it was. Hold on a second. I was already going on to the next one. That is Bobby Hill III.
Bobby Hill III. Let us know.
Please explain what that means.
Was that a roast? Was that a compliment?
When SpongeBob saw himself in the commercial.
Yeah.
And I don't remember.
Am I SpongeBob or is Bobby Hill III SpongeBob?
I think you're SpongeBob. You're like SpongeBob when you saw yourself when he saw himself in the commercial. Maybe it's like when you're like kind of like the rookies. I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I'm unclear on that.
D. Robinson, you guys shouldn't talk about the Pac-12 or any college football because you obviously don't know what you're talking about.
There was a commenter, I think, who, unless it was Alberto himself, used the username Alberto and left a lot of comments.
Somebody used the name Alberto, left a lot of comments. Did not like all of the Dulcich talk.
No. Maybe it was Albert.
Do you think so?
Probably not.
And then the last one is just that Wardell M. Cringe intro, awesome show.
I'll take it.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. So yeah, you could just go onto the Broncos official YouTube page, leave a comment, engage with us. We love the comments. What other ways can you be a part of the show?
There's so many, really.
There's really a lot.
You can leave a voicemail, 707 neutral.
707 neutral.
You call in. You don't talk to anybody. You just leave a voicemail. We'll play it right here on the air. We're going to do that later today.
First time caller, I think.
Yeah.
Or first time actually on the show. You know, Ben Swanson.
You never know. You never know. We'll talk about Ben Swanson a little bit later.
Yeah.
You can leave an email, neutralzoneshow@gmail.com.
Yep.
It's a nice way to do it. You can get in touch with us directly on Twitter, at Eric Dalala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH.
Yeah.
What?
I would say those are non-traditional
Oh,
spellings.
okay. I was kind of wondering.
That's how I would say it.
Got it.
Yeah, those are non-traditional spellings. Somebody thought that your name, Eric, was spelled A. They got that part right. Then they put another A, almost like Aaron.
Oh.
You know, but then they said Eric.
I have a funny story about my name, actually.
Oh, okay.
I was at a wedding this past weekend.
You love to go to weddings.
Love a good wedding.
You love weddings.
Yeah. Of course.
Atlanta?
People would be surprised to know, Phil, that I wasn't invited to your wedding.
That's
You, of course, were invited to mine and skipped it. So just, you
true.
call me or everything, but these are
That's
facts.
true. Those are facts, but there's other outstanding circumstances.
But they're facts.
Sorry.
A friend went to go get some sandwiches for lunch ahead of the wedding.
Have to give them your name?
I was a groomsman. You know, the bridesmaids, they get ready all day. Groomsmen, you show up an hour before it starts, and you're like, what do I do?
Hey, what's going on?
So we got some sandwiches. He went to this sandwich shop, said, I need a sandwich for Eric. And he goes, it's with an A. And he relayed to me that she looked at him almost in terror and said, where does the A go?
Where does it go? It's with an A.
She was
Where does
unclear
it
in
go?
Eric where the A went.
Oh. How did that make you feel?
I thought it was funny.
Oh.
I expected you to laugh.
No, that's
Maybe-
good. Where does the A go?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to
goes at the
spell
beginning.
Eric with an E, I guess it would be confusing if, like, where does A?
Yeah, like maybe they thought it
ER.
was EA or...
ERAC. Iraq.
Yeah, it's different, though.
Yeah. That's true, Eric. That's good.
People forget that the word air starts with an A.
Air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. You think that's
It's just interesting.
air, AIR.
IC would make a lot of sense for
That-
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Air is essential to live. So
And like the verb air, ERR, that if that's how you say air, then it should be ERRIC.
yeah, 2 R's.
Yeah.
That could
That
be.
one doesn't really make sense.
I think it's just the sound. Eh
Uh-huh.
is typically E. Eric. E.
But that's not the name.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a lot of names where you could just spell it in a million
sure.
different ways.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Like Phil.
Yeah.
FILL.
Who puts a PH?
PHIO.
Yeah.
You can smash that subscribe button on YouTube.
Yeah. That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Do that.
That's a nice way to
I
do
think
it.
there's like a Twitter account, Broncos Podcasts,
Yeah, the official podcast
official
network.
podcast Twitter account.
Yeah.
Those
That's
are
a good
those are
way
good ways.
to get involved.
You show up at Phil's house,
Yes, you could do that too.
email us. I'll send you his address.
Yeah, we could send a sticker too.
Unlikely.
We got those in.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
You've been busy with OTAs.
Big
When we get to
box.
summer break, we'll
Big
work
box
through
of
those.
Yeah, we'll work through them. So please get in touch with the show. We know that you have an opinion about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So just let us know. Okay. Eric, let's dive into our first topic here on the Neutral Zone, and that is, what does Russell Wilson need to do in his first year with the Broncos to be a part of the MVP conversation? Eric, what are the numbers he's going to have to put up? What is he going to have to do on the field to be MVP of the NFL for the first time in his career?
Yeah, I think it's a layered conversation because I think there's some different elements to it, which is nice. It's not just, he's got to throw this many touchdowns.
No, that's not that simple.
He's going to be on the radar, I think. One, you have to have a good storyline, I think, to win an MVP.
Oh,
I think that has to be part of it. You know,
really?
a lot of the times they don't like to give. I know Rodgers has just won back-to-back, but they don't often like to give it to the same guy. They like to find Matt Ryan has a breakout year or Lamar Jackson has a breakout year. They like to have kind of these storylines. Russ going to Denver and playing really well. That's a good storyline that automatically puts you in that conversation. You know, the way that Matt Stafford for a little bit was kind of in that conversation in LA, or Tom Brady when he goes to Tampa. You're in that conversation when you play well. So there is like that narrative storyline element to it. I think he's already checked that just by the nature of coming here.
The primetime games, the Broncos are gonna be in the national conversation.
Right. And so that's part of it too, is Russ has to play well on the national stage.
Yep.
Broncos are going to play 17 regular season games. They've got 5 primetime games. They've got a game on Christmas Day against the Rams. They have, the Jaguars game is in an exclusive window. It is on ESPN Plus, so probably not as many people will watch that. Very early.
From a TV perspective, that game's not as big.
But when you are in these big moments, Russ has to play well.
Yep.
And he probably has to outduel these other quarterbacks, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Matt Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo / Trey Lance, certainly Drew Lock or Geno Smith. He needs to, in those big games, be at his best.
Yep.
And then look at, you have to beat the Chiefs, and you have to win the division. I don't see any way that Russ can be the MVP without winning the division. And you probably need to go, like if they win the division at 12-5, maybe, but I think 13-4 would certainly go a lot longer of a way toward helping Russ win the MVP. You probably need to be either the first or second seed in the AFC. And so those are kind of all like the bigger picture things. And then there's the numbers, of course.
Yeah. Eric, let me just give you some numbers here. This is kind of what I do here. Right now, the odds on favorite to win the MVP, Patrick Mahomes is number 1.
Okay.
Josh Allen is number 2. Aaron Rodgers, number 3. Okay, that would be 3 in a row. Brett Favre did that in the 90s. Okay, Tom Brady and then Justin Herbert. Those are the top 5 favorites to win MVP this year. Okay, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP winner. Last year, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Just 4.
Okay.
That is incredible. 2020, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And, of course, both those years he threw for more than 4,000 yards. So that is kind of the ballpark we're talking about here. Lamar Jackson in 2019, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but rushed for 1,200 yards.
Right.
I don't think Russ is going to be doing that.
I don't think so.
He's going to have to put up a ton of touchdowns. Almost no interceptions here. And I was thinking, okay, maybe not MVP. What about Offensive Player of the Year? Cooper Kupp is the favorite right now, followed by Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, they tend not to give Offensive Player of the Year to quarterback as much, I feel like.
Yes.
Just because they like to reward, a running back that plays well, wide receiver.
Yes.
Because MVP has become essentially a quarterback-only award.
The last non-quarterback to win MVP is Adrian Peterson, when he ran for more than 2,000 yards. So it takes something very special.
2012.
Yeah. And I believe Peyton Manning was the Offensive Player of the Year that year. I think. That's what we do here.
Yeah, that's what we think.
Yeah, that's what we think.
I
can look it up.
I think what Russ needs to do from a statistical standpoint is probably get to 38, 39, 40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that doesn't guarantee it, but if you get to that many touchdowns, you have fewer than 10 interceptions, you lead your team to a division title. And part of this is, most valuable, who's playing well, who brings value to your team. If the Broncos go from 6 consecutive years of missing the playoffs to winning their division, being a top seed in the AFC, that's value. Because this roster has changed a little bit, but not a ton. I mean, especially on offense, you're putting Russ in here, and if you throw for 38 touchdowns and you win the AFC West, that is a direct reflection of Russell Wilson. I have a hard time believing that in that situation, Phil, you don't just say he's the MVP because no one else is more valuable.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I think works in Russ's benefit is that you're probably going to be in a lot of high-scoring games in the AFC West.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Hackett, I think, has a different mindset as a head coach than Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll liked to, I think, kind of grind it out. You want to run the ball,
play good defense.
You want to, you don't want to.
They didn't let Russ cook. Odds.
Right. I think the Broncos are going to try to put up a lot of points and kind of, when Nathaniel Hackett has been asked about keeping up with the Chiefs, the Chargers, it's been, we got to go score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so Russ should get the opportunity to throw a lot of touchdown passes, to get those. You need some games where you have 4 touchdowns in a game, or have a game where you throw 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get that chance because of the style of football the Broncos want to play. And so if he's up for it, he's going to have the opportunity. And I think at the very least, assuming the Broncos are decent and do what we think they're going to do, he should be at least in the conversation for most of the year. And then we'll just see kind of, can he do enough to actually win it?
So I looked up that information. Okay. Adrian Peterson was the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year. So he won both of those awards. Peyton Manning, 2012, won Comeback Player of the Year.
Yes.
Comeback Player of the Year. So then, of course, in 2013, he won
MVP
and Offensive Player of the Year. So
nice.
It was the greatest statistical season ever by a quarterback. He had to clean it all up. So
I mean, if Russ throws 56 touchdowns, he'll win MVP.
I think that's pretty easy to just sort of say that for sure.
To assume.
Yeah, for sure he'll win the MVP.
I also think it's easier when you get off to a hot start as opposed to trying to play catch up in the MVP
Get in
race.
that buzz and then stay in the buzz.
Right.
It's harder to get in there later.
And so the Broncos do, I think, have a pretty what's the word?
Favorable
opening slate of games. We've looked at the schedule and we think there's a chance you can start 6-3, 7-2, something like that.
Get in the conversation early.
If he gets in the mix early, maybe they're able to get going. Like, I think part of the reason Peyton probably wasn't in the MVP mix in 2012 is that it was a slow start to the season.
It was.
For the Broncos. The Broncos will have to get off to a little bit faster of a start there.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's possible.
The start is going to be interesting just because it's a new offense. We'll have to see, just how quickly they start clicking. Might have a better idea come training camp.
As long as you win, like maybe he's not throwing 5 touchdowns a game to start. Maybe it's like a few 2-touchdown games or 3 touchdowns. But you're winning, and then he starts to click late in the year. Maybe that's enough to get him there.
Who would you say is like your favorite right now, though?
I think Josh Allen is probably.
I think so too.
Just because Mahomes has done it before, and I do think the voters, again, the storyline thing, I think they like new winners.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen, I would say Justin Herbert is kind of in that conversation in terms of a guy who could take a step. And you never want to rule out, it would be a little crazy if like Trevor Lawrence went nuts and won MVP, but
that would be.
It had, I think, 2 years in a row, right? A second-year player in Mahomes, and then Lamar Jackson won MVP, and so
some
it's
young
not
guys.
Outrageous to think that maybe Trevor Lawrence takes a big step.
I think that for Russell Wilson, considering all these guys in the AFC, it's loaded. I think if the Broncos are the number 1 seed, that's going to certainly put Russell Wilson right there in the mix. So
right.
I think that'll take some sort of an effort like that where they're the best, and he's performing at a very high level.
And some of it, is more than just what you do. Russell Wilson could go out and throw 40 touchdowns, and if, Josh Allen throws 50, it
out of
doesn't
his
matter.
Control.
Yeah.
Out of his control. And the NFL's trending this way where you just throw an insane amount of touchdowns. But if he wins MVP, then it'll be like Denver's sort of the MVP capital.
The capital
of sports.
Right.
It would be.
That'd be nice.
Could be nice. Could be really nice. Eric, let's move on to our second topic of conversation here because you're talking about the need to get off to a hot start. That first game for the Broncos, heading to Seattle. It's going to be a lot of attention on the Broncos at that point, okay? It's going to be kicking off the Monday Night Football slate. Troy Aikman is going to be there. Joe Buck's going to be there. The whole NFL world watching, all eyes on the Broncos. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle, and he says he's going to play it non-emotional.
Yeah, and I don't know how much that's possible. There's going to be emotion involved. He clearly loves the city of Seattle. He loves the fans, loves a lot of his teammates. He said here and there the rest of the organization, but obviously there was some friction at some point that led to him coming here. I do think there will be emotion involved. I'll be interested to see what is the fan reaction, because if they cheer, like when Peyton went back to Indy, nothing but cheers.
I think they got love for Russ up there.
Well, you see a lot of people on Twitter that say Russ wanted out. Russ wanted to leave here. I think that the reaction is going to be somewhat negative. And if that
you do?
That's what Seahawks fans are saying on Twitter.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think it's going to be like in the stands?
It wouldn't surprise me if if you could hear boos.
Oh,
I think there'll be people that cheer, but I don't think it's going to be as overwhelming as like when Manning went back to Indy.
yeah.
Because that was not Peyton's choice. He was cut.
Peyton sort of built the Colts into what they eventually became.
I do think there is some, and if this was that Manning thing was also a year removed. Brady went back to New England a year removed. There were seasons in between.
Yeah.
This is the very first game since Russ left. I don't know if there's still going to be some hard feelings. If there are boos, I think that potentially helps the Broncos and that might ignite Russ a little bit.
I would say in a lot of these situations, fans tend to have a strong allegiance with the player. Like fans buy Russ jerseys. They're going to have their Russ jerseys. They idolize Russ. Like this is sort of there's more of a personal attachment there to the player, especially somebody like Russ who's been there for a long time, won a Super Bowl in Seattle. I would imagine that he gets a warm reception, but obviously they'll still want the Seahawks to win.
Yeah, I think we're on a different page there. I just think that
interesting. We'll have to see.
When a player asks out or is communicating about, hey, this is, there's clearly some sort of tension there.
There was definitely tension there.
And so whether Russ initiated or the Seahawks initiated, I think there's a sentiment if it's a minority, it's a very vocal minority of Seahawks fans that, hey, we're not a fan of how this went down.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you get I think at some point, like when he's inducted presumably into the Seahawks Ring of Honor, Ring of Fame, they'll celebrate him. I think this might be a little close where, you have a player in the prime of his career jump to another team. I just don't know if it's going to be quite as warm as some receptions that we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think in other sports, a little different, like if a guy leaves in free agency, just like wanted more money,
like when
stuff like that.
When
that's a little bit different.
left Oklahoma City.
A little bit different, I would say, situation. That's what I'm sort of saying.
I think the Russ is closer to that than to Peyton going back to Indy.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, Durant left and went to Golden State, right? And he was sort of chasing a ring.
Yeah, well, I think Russ
is a bit different. I think that Russ wanted to play a different style of football than the organization in Seattle wanted.
I think the key thing is that when a player wanting to leave versus a player being.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't know if he necessarily was like, I want to leave Seattle. He was like, I want to play different. And Seattle, the organization, made a decision like, no, we're going to continue to play like this. We're going to stick with Pete Carroll, and we're going to move you.
At which case, he probably said, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I view that differently as like when a player is traded kind of against their, like, Demaryius Thomas, for example, when he came back to Denver.
The next week,
the reception was incredible.
Yes.
And there was no indication that DT wanted to leave or wanted to go to Houston. He wanted to remain with the Broncos. And so that's very different than, when a player says, and again, we don't know who said what first or any of that, but I just think it's iffy enough that I'm not sure that we're going to go there and hear just kind of raucous applause or a 2-minute highlight video.
Oh, do you think they'll play a highlight video?
I think they'll do something, some sort of recognition.
Welcome back,
but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be extensive. I think Pete Carroll might talk a little bit during the week about, Russ was great, but I think it's mainly from him going to be.
It's just another game.
We appreciate Russ's contributions. We're focused on this football game.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how Russ handles it. I think. I don't know if Peyton would ever admit this, but I think those were emotional games for him against Indy. He did not win in Indianapolis. I think that was always a tough game for him.
Yeah.
I could see this thing being true with Russ and having a hard time, especially early.
Yeah.
I will say the benefit for the Broncos probably is when I look at, Tom Brady going to New England. He won, but it was a close game. Peyton obviously went to Indy and lost. I think both those Patriots team and that Colts team were probably I don't want to say significantly better, but better than the Seahawks team the Broncos are going to face.
Denver is better on paper than Seattle.
Yes.
I think so. Like, I would say the Broncos, outside circumstances aside, should win the game. But when you add in the emotional factor, it's going to be interesting.
Right. And the Colts did have, of course, a great quarterback of their own. It was not,
Andrew Luck.
Yes.
Yeah, and Seattle has
Drew Lock. Andrew Luck.
Yeah, that's what I said,
right.
Drew Lock. So there was Andrew Luck and Drew Lock.
Yes.
Those are the two quarterbacks we're talking about.
I think it'll be emotional for him. I think it's going to be impossible to put it away completely. But I still think that he's going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I know you do. You thought that.
Yeah. You don't.
I just think that it's really hard, and I think athletes play a lot on emotion. Do you know what I mean? And some athletes, they push themselves, and it fuels them and it motivates them to play above their level. And other people, it gets in their head a little bit.
Well, and you got to remember, a lot of these guys are going to say, "We got to win this for Russ."
Yeah,
and so the Broncos are going to play with emotion. I don't know how how bad it got there, but he might be thinking, I got to beat these guys to prove that they made the wrong decision.
Of course, that's what he wants to think. Yeah. I think by him saying, hey, I want to play 10 more years, I want to do this, I want to do that, that's him saying, I got a lot left in the tank, I got a point to prove here.
Right.
I think that's he's going to be a man on a mission all season long. Starts in Seattle.
Yep.
We'll see what happens. Would you say that Peyton Manning in general was a type of a quarterback where when things started to not go well, it really started to go off the edge a little bit? I guess what I'm saying is, like, he played with a lot of emotion, I would say, and so sometimes like a game like that in Indy, that maybe affected Peyton more than maybe some other guys, you think?
I mean, the Broncos came back in that game.
Yeah, once he settled in,
and made it
made
it interesting.
They were down pretty big, though.
I don't know. I mean, I can think of a handful of games right off the top of my head where either the Colts or Broncos were trailing by a lot and came back. So, you think of Monday Night Football against St. Louis and Indianapolis. You think of when he went to the Super Bowl coming back from 18 against the Patriots.
Yep.
Think of 24-0 against the Chargers on Monday Night Football. I mean, he had the ability to come back. It wasn't like if you fell behind, it was over.
No. But things tended to snowball before he settled down a little. Then once he settled down, he was back to being Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Pure stud.
That can be your take. I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay.
We're in a lot of disagreement here today.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting, and it's just going to be a lot of eyeballs. The whole NFL world will be watching, and I think that it should be great theater. Should be fun.
Excited for it.
Eric, should we get to a voicemail?
Let's do it.
Okay, we got a first-time caller here. Actually, first time Ben Swanson's forwarded him through.
Right.
This is a voicemail from Kendall calling in from Georgia.
How's it going, guys? It's Kendall calling from Georgia. Just want to say, love the talks about Greg Dulcich on this past podcast. And I completely agree. I do think he can make a run to be the starter. I watched a couple of his highlight tapes after we drafted him, and he looks like a complete stud, especially with the hair. But anyways, and y'all were talking about copping jerseys and which jerseys to cop, and I actually did happen to cop a signed Javonte Williams jersey that I'm going to hang up in my new apartment. So I'm pretty pumped for that, but great show. Looking forward to the next one, and especially looking forward to this season. 17-0 Super Bowl champs coming up this year. All right, go Broncos.
Kendall, thank you very much for that call. Javonte Williams would be a great jersey to get.
Yeah, definitely.
We heard from Javonte Williams this week on Thursday, had a press conference, talked about this Nathaniel Hackett offense. Said it's the most complex offense he's ever been in.
Right, which I don't know how much there is to compare it to. He was in a college offense and then 1 year of the NFL. So it's probably basically one versus the other.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. He said the running backs have to essentially learn to be receivers and running backs, which is interesting to think about. Melvin Gordon, him, kind of whether it's in the slot, whether it's out wide. They did run a play during OTAs, the one the media were allowed to watch, where Javonte was split out wide. That's a little secret for NZ Nation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to be reporting this?
I think you can throw a little hint in there every now and then.
Okay.
But yeah,
He
I think
said it.
it's just exciting to see what Nathaniel Hackett's going to do with all this talent, different personnel groupings. You could have the same players out there and not have them in the same formation. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. He's going to keep running hard. I asked him, do you ever think about stepping out of bounds to save your body? It's a long season, a long career ahead of you. He just kind of laughed.
He said, that's not what I do.
No, he said, I've always just done it that way.
What do you think about that, Eric?
I think
sometimes it's okay to just say 1 extra yard is not worth a blast.
Yeah, I think there were times when he did step out, and there's times where
Just got to be smart about it.
yeah, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
That is just how he plays.
Yeah, I mean, what makes him special is the fact that he just refuses to go down.
And I think that there's in today's NFL, you're so worried about a late hit penalty that a lot of the times when these guys get by the sideline, defenders ease up a little bit because they don't want to hit you late.
The Mahomes.
So that's almost the time when you blast forward a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I hate when Mahomes does that. It's just not fair.
I'm sorry.
It's not fair. I do think that when Javonte is running and there's like a pile of guys on top of him and he's dragging him, he's probably not taking a huge shot at that point anyway.
No.
So it's just more of eventually you get taken
Well, and you
down.
probably, in that case, you want to fall forward on your own because if you stop or you're
Something
more
weird
likely
could
to
happen.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I will say if he's near the sidelines, I don't have a problem with, hey, maybe get 1 more yard and then just go out of bounds.
Yeah.
Save the body a little bit. One thing we have heard from a lot of offensive players, though, Eric, is that Nathaniel Hackett wants a lot of this offense pre-snap to look the same. Like, hey, this all looks the same, and then once the ball is snapped, it goes completely different.
Right.
That's interesting to me because, you see, like, say, for example, the Chiefs, everybody's in motion. You're challenging the defender's eyes a little bit.
Well, I think there's still going to be motion that does that. I just think that a lot of the formations could look similar.
That's what I'm talking about. The formations looking the same.
Right, but the Chiefs the motion comes after the formation.
Yeah.
The Broncos are still going to use a lot of motion. It's kind of like a staple of what they did in Green Bay. I would expect the same thing.
But what do you think about them saying everything's got to look the same?
Well, that's what you want to do. So that
the personnel groupings and stuff like that.
Well, I don't think the personnel groupings are all going to look the same. I think that they're going to have 2 tight end sets. They're going to have 3 wide. They're going to have 2 backs. You saw that during OTAs. They're going to do a lot of different things. But when he says look the same, my understanding is that when you have, say, a 2 tight end set out there, you want before the motion or even, have the same motion for a lot of different plays where we can run out of this, we can play action out of this, we can throw it deep out of this, so that you can't identify one formation and say they're going to do this out of that.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean to me that, like the Broncos last year, would just
Judy would do a lot of the motion.
Well, but they would just almost exclusively for a lot of the time line up in 3 wide, and you'd have some motion from Judy, and then I think you were able to key in on what they were doing a little bit.
Got it.
I think there's going to be a lot more variation, but you won't be able to associate this formation with this play. Right.
Got it. This formation pass.
Right.
That's probably a good idea to do.
Probably a good idea.
Probably. I did like that when Javonte was asked about last year's offense. He was like, I don't.
He did not answer the question.
He did not want to answer that question. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that's a nice little OTA show.
You think it's time for shout-outs?
I think so.
Okay, Eric, anybody you want to shout out here?
We will shout out, despite him being in Seattle. Ben Swanson celebrated a birthday.
That's true. 31 years old for Ben Swanson.
Very excited for him.
Yes.
Nice to get another year older.
It is.
Another year wiser.
Yeah.
We appreciate what Ben Swanson does for this podcast sometimes.
He just does a lot of painting and that kind of stuff. I think he painted something for his birthday.
Kind of a self-portrait, I think.
New easel is what I think he got. Yeah. So
you got that for him?
I got him some new oils.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Nice.
Any other shout-outs?
Well, we can shout out our friend Liz Gerald's probably not listening to this podcast.
I think maybe.
Maybe. I think currently in Spain.
España.
So if you're in Spain, you see Liz Manis.
Yes.
Gerald's, say hello.
That is true. Just say hello to Liz Gerald's.
Yeah.
You probably see her. You know what's going on there. Right. Eric, before we sign off, we did get an email from Andy Maines talking about the tragedy in Texas. Just wanted to make a quick comment here that it's hard to talk about football a little bit and just turn your mind away from that because so many people out there, the focus is on Texas right now, and we just wanted to say that we are thinking about that, but we do have a podcast to do, so we gotta talk a little football, but in the back of our minds, I think definitely the whole time here is we're thinking about Texas.
Yeah, tragic situation. Our deepest condolences, obviously, to everyone impacted, and hard for people everywhere as this continues to happen. Hopefully, we find a way to move past this sort of thing so that it doesn't happen anymore. But Andy, thanks for your email.
Yes.
Like you said, we wanted to bring this up. We do have to talk about football, but just wanted to make a note of we are aware of everything that's going on, and it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And, it continues to happen. And what did they say the definition of insanity is, Eric? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Yeah. I think that it seems like maybe this time enough people are saying, okay, this is enough. It's time for some change here, I think. So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Neutral Zone. We'll be back next week talking more OTAs, probably.
That's right.
We'll find something to talk about.
Hopefully.
We'll talk about formations maybe. Just a whole show on formations.
Perfect.
And how everything looks the same.
Yep.
And maybe some DVOA. That's what it'll be, a whole Delilah show. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Eric Lau, I'm Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.